The Los Angeles Chargers finished the 2023 season with a 5-12 record and missed the playoffs for the third time in 4 years in the Justin Herbert era. It was a long season for the Chargers as they started the year with an 0-2 record and eventually battled back to a 4-4 record through 8 games before losing the next 3 to fall to 4-7. And during that 3-game losing streak, they lost to 3 playoff teams as they fell in consecutive weeks to the Lions, Packers, and Ravens before beating the Patriots with a score of 6-0 in Week 13, which would prove to be their final victory of the year. The lowlight of their season was undoubtedly during a Week 15 game against the Raiders, in which they lost 63-21 and were down 42-0 at half. Unintentionally, one of both the funniest and saddest moments of the 2023 season for the Chargers was when Brandon Staley was interviewed at halftime of that game. And to me, that was the summarization of the Chargers season. I, along with countless other people, probably Chargers fans watching this video, thought it was a big mistake bringing Brandon Staley back for the 2023 season, and Justin Herbert and the rest of the Chargers roster paid the price in a big way last year. And fast forwarding to the present day, and the Los Angeles Chargers are in a difficult situation. I truly think they will be okay in the long run, and I think they are doing everything right, but I do think 2024 will be a very tough year for them. And in today's video, we're going to break down how they do in the first year of the Jim Harbaugh era. Now let's begin. And we are starting today's video by breaking down who the Chargers lost this offseason prior to the NFL draft and who they brought in prior to the NFL draft. The reality for the Chargers entering 2024 was they were always going to have to cut ties with any two of Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams. The amount these guys were owed was an enormous amount, and for what it's worth, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack each have a cap hit north of $25 million this year. Keenan and Mike were both owed something north of $20 million per year each had they stayed Chargers, and the main reason we bring up guarantees whenever we discuss contracts is because of situations like this. LA still has to pay the guaranteed part of their contract, and for reference, Mike Williams has a dead cap hit of $12.4 million this year, and Keenan has a dead cap hit of $11.6 million this year for a team that they will not be playing for. And not only that, but the Chargers are also paying J.C. Jackson $20.8 million this year, who was one of the biggest free agent busts of all time, and this is all per Spotrac.com, by the way. So when you have nearly $45 million allocated to 3 players who aren't going to be playing for your team right from the start, or around 17.5% of your salary cap, well, you're going to be at an extreme disadvantage relative to other NFL teams. And that's a big reason why we titled today's video, "The Los Angeles Chargers are in a difficult situation." Not only that, but having to replace Keenan Allen is a near impossible task, and in just 13 games last year, he had over 100 receptions for 1,200 yards. The Chargers receiving core entering the year isn't great, and we will break them down more later, but within free agency, they also lost Kenneth Murray, Gerald Everett, Austin Eckler, Michael Davis, and Eric Kendricks. The reality of building rosters in today's NFL is you really have a 2 or 3 year window with the current group of guys. Some will obviously stay longer than others, but there was never going to be a scenario where Keenan, Mike, Joey, and Khalil all were Chargers in 2024, and we've seen this with other teams too, and the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill is another good example. Unfortunately, the Chargers have not had as much team success as other NFL franchises, but they have went in on building a roster around quarterback Justin Herbert. It just didn't work out, and some of that is due to injury, some of that was definitely due to coaching, and now some of it has to do with financials. So entering 2024, the Chargers needed to retool their roster and go through a youth movement where they get younger and, most importantly, cheaper. I really don't think losing Austin Eckler at this point in his career is a big loss really at all, and I don't think 2023 was a good year for him, which is a pretty big understatement. There's a reason teams do not want to pay running backs after their rookie contracts, and around age 27 is when they really start to fall off. And in Ekeler's age 28 season, he averaged a full yard less per carry than he did in 2022, and his total touchdowns were a third of what they were in 2022, as he went from 18 total touchdowns all the way down to just 6. LA could not run the ball consistently last year, and aside from a game in Week 1 against the Dolphins, in which they ran for over 230 yards as an offense, they ran for 100 yards as a team just 4 times in the remaining 16 games, which is, well, bad. The long-term goal for Jim Harbaugh is to run the football, and they address the offensive line and running back room in free agency by bringing in guys like Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and by replacing Will Clapp with Bradley Bozeman. I have a lot of concerns with Bozeman specifically at the center position, which we'll discuss during the offensive portion of the video, but I at least wanted to break down the Chargers situation entering this year. They are in a much different situation than a lot of other NFL teams, but I am very eager to see how their defense plays in the first year of the Jim Harbaugh era. This defense is interesting because they have a few good pass rushers in Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, and a player who had a really solid rookie season in Tuli Tuipulotu. They, of course, also have Derwin James and Asante Samuel Jr. in the secondary, and to be completely honest, I like this defense entering the year. I really do. But we say this every year, and for whatever reason, this applies to the Chargers more than it does other teams every year, hell, including already at the start of the 24 season. But health is extremely important, and if the Chargers can stay relatively healthy, then I can't emphasize enough how much I love the pass rushing trio of Mack, Bosa, and Tuipulotu. Tuli had over 50 pressures as a rookie, and given he did that at just 21 years old, I can't imagine he regresses this year, and I think he will only get better. Khalil Mack had an insane 88 pressure season, and I think he had the quietest 17 sack season of all time last year. I really don't think the Chargers defense was all that bad in 2023, and in the final 11 games of the year, they allowed 400 or more yards of opposing offense just once, which was to the Lions in Week 10. And as we know, the Lions of course have one of the best offenses in the entire league. Even in the dreaded Raiders game where they gave up 63 points, they only allowed 378 yards, and the reality is, when you turn the ball over 5 times offensively and create 0 turnovers defensively, I mean, you're going to be set up to fail no matter how you slice it. Now, LA did sign Christian Fulton, a corner in free agency, to be their second starting outside corner, and this is a position I expect the Chargers to address more in the 2025 offseason, maybe even in the first round of the 2025 draft, and there's a reason LA only gave Christian a 1-year deal. If J.C. Jackson worked out as a free agent signing, then they would not have had to bring in Christian to effectively be a 1-year stopgap corner. I don't think Fulton is that good of a player personally, but he will be 26 at the start of the 2024 regular season, so if he works out, great, then they can hopefully get a few years out of him, but I wouldn't plan on it. And through either previous free agent busts or again through an aging roster, this all plays into why the Chargers are in a difficult situation. This is not going to be a 1-year turnaround, and I know the Chargers specifically have been deemed off-season champions countless times over the years, but this certainly is not the year for that. Ja'Sir Taylor played pretty well in the slot for them last year, and like we've said before, nickel is the new base, and I expect that to continue this year. Ja'Sir is entering year 3, and if he has a good year this year, then he may be in line for a contract extension as early as next offseason. One thing I want to see more from the Chargers in 2024 that we did not see a whole lot of last year was creating turnovers. This team only forced 21 turnovers in 17 games, but what is important to note here is they created 15 turnovers in the first 8 games of the year and forced just 6 in the remaining 9 games. And even 3 of those turnovers in the final 9 games came in the Buffalo game in Week 16. You have 3 good pass rushers, and even Morgan Fox can get after the quarterback too. Poke the ball out, force a quarterback into a hurried throw, anything. But creating turnovers and being able to run the football down teams' throat is going to be a big part and the identity of the 2024 Chargers. Now, with the Chargers 2024 offense, I think there's two groups of fans in terms of where they project this unit to be this year. There's this group that wants to just destroy Justin Herbert, say he's just a stat patter, he's never going to win anything of note. And then there's the other group that's kind of realistic and says, look, Gus Edwards, Josh Palmer, DJ Chark, Will Dissly, and the interior offensive line is not great. And I think it's going to be a little bit of each, to be completely honest. Now, I don't expect the Chargers offense to finish top 10 or top 12 in points per game. And in fact, I think there's going to be times this year where it is very, very frustrating for this unit. It is also worth noting, I did want to get this out of the way, I am recording this on Saturday, August 3rd, and there was a report recently that Justin sustained an injury during training camp and that he is expected to be out anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. And at this point, I am assuming that Justin will be ready by week 1. So under the assumption Justin plays all 17 games, this is where we are going to be projecting this unit from. Now, the receiving core, whether the quarterback is Justin Herbert, whether it's another division rival, whether it's Josh Allen, whoever, guys, this receiving core is not good. They are going to be led by second-round pick Ladd McConkey. Now, I will say in favor of Ladd, I think there is a non-zero chance that Ladd actually leads the 2024 receiving class in receiving yards in their rookie year, just because of how many opportunities he's going to get, and especially early on. Quentin Johnston at this point does not look good in camp. He looks to be a flat-out draft bust, and we all know that he certainly had some big drops throughout the 2023 season. The Chargers tight end room, to me, it's bad. Will Dissly, hopefully he does okay, and hopefully he can hold the fort for 1 year. But after Will Dissly, I mean, guys, this receiving room to me is truly the worst in football. It's Hayden Hurst, Donald Parham, and Stone Smart. And to me, Hayden Hurst, there were times on tape last year for the Panthers where it was flat out ugly. And there were times when I was watching Bryce Young just hoping that his tight end could get some separation for him, which, as we know, never came. My big concerns for the 2024 Chargers offense is the interior offensive line, and not only that, but it's also the receiving core. And I don't know how, even if you are a Justin Herbert hater, or you want Justin to fail to push an agenda or to push a narrative, that you can reasonably go into this year and say, you know what, Justin has a fair shot, and if they don't finish top 7 or top 8 in points per game, it's because Justin underperformed. Not due to the lack of weaponry, that would be unsustainable for any quarterback to come in and play at a high level, but solely because of Justin Herbert. I have to be honest, I don't have the highest expectations for this offense, and I hope in the best case scenario that Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins can prove to be a good duo, and especially for J.K.'s sake, that hopefully he can stay healthy for a full 17 games, but I think it would be a pretty successful season for the Chargers 2024 offense if they can finish in the top 15 in points per game. I mean, this unit, outside of a few players, outside of Justin, outside of Rashawn Slater, and who I think will soon be a great player, in Joe Alt, I have a lot of concerns with this offense entering this year. The Chargers' 2024 rookie impact should be substantial, and especially early on. I absolutely loved the Joe Alt selection. I loved the Ladd McConkey selection. I loved the Junior Colson selection at pick 69. And I thought out of the first 3 picks, in consecutive rounds, I thought the Chargers 3 were amongst the best in the entire league. Now, we've brought up other teams before, like the Bears with 2 in the top 9, so it's a little different judging their top 2 picks versus another team's top 3. You get the point. But when the Chargers made the Joe Alt selection, I said there was a possibility, and granted this is several years down the road, but I said there was a possibility that the Chargers now have the 2 tackles on their roster that will protect Justin Herbert for the rest of his career. Now that kind of gets into a conversation of, well, is Justin still going to be playing at 37 and Rashawn Slater still playing at like 35, 36? You get the point. The point was, the Chargers left tackle and right tackle are going to be set for a long time. Ladd McConkey, I think you guys know this part's coming. Look, he's silky smooth route runner, first one in, last one out, lunch pail, coach's kid. I don't know if he's a coach's kid, but you get the point. Just a very crafty player. Look, Lad is a good football player, and like we said during the offensive portion of the video, I think there is a chance that he leads the 2024 class in receiving yards this year, because there's not a lot of other options for Herbert to throw the ball to. I know they signed Josh Palmer, and I know they have DJ Chark, but I mean, Palmer's okay, but DJ Chark is like a wide receiver 3.5 at this point in his career. He's not a reliable option. The tight end room is incredibly thin. So in terms of rookie impact, I mean, we're talking a 17-game season now. This isn't a 14 or 16-game season. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ladd McConkey has 1,000 yards in his rookie year. Junior Colson, to me, was the definition of a player that has a really high floor, and I think he's going to be in the league for a long time. Now, I'm not going to talk about a player 4 years down the road and what the decision would be when it comes to free agency and all that, but specifically for 2024, Junior Colson will elevate the Chargers linebacking room, and he's going to be a player that I think that they will want to keep around for a long time. We did not discuss Troy running back Kimani Vidal during the offensive portion, mainly because he was a late 6th round pick. There's a possibility that he has a big impact in his rookie year, and I know people a lot of the time want to make something out of this late round pick because he showed this on tape and he showed this and he's my sleeper. It could have happened, yes. I wouldn't count on it, but I did at least want to talk about the potential of Vidal in his rookie year. But all in all, with Joe Alt, with Ladd McConkey, and Junior Colson, I really think this team selected 3 great players for the foreseeable future. It just stinks that a lot of the roster isn't up to where it probably should be at this point, but I do think in the 2025 offseason, the Chargers and the projection of what they can be in the long run, especially with Jim Harbaugh, I think they're going to be one of the more fun teams to discuss. I think Joe Alt is a franchise tackle. I think Ladd McConkey is going to be a very consistent player, and I like Junior Colson a lot. Overall, the Chargers' rookie impact will absolutely be in the top half of the league, if not the top 7 or 8 teams. I loved their 2024 draft class. The Chargers' 2024 schedule is not as difficult as you may think, and their first 4 games are home against the Raiders, then at Carolina, then at Pittsburgh, before coming home to play Kansas City before a Week 5 bye. Now, this is a different discussion, but whether it's the Chargers or anybody, I gotta be honest, I'm not a fan of playing 4 games and then having 13 games after the bye. So I think that is disadvantageous from a competitive standpoint to, be entering week 15 and you've played 10 straight games and then, you're kind of rolling on fumes by the time the season ends. I really think the earliest bye should be with the 17 game and presumably in the next couple of years an 18 game schedule. I think it should be like week 6 or week 7. But aside from that, this team's schedule could be a lot worse than what it is. They play the AFC North, so they go to Cleveland, and in consecutive weeks, they eventually play home against the Bengals and Ravens before going to places like Atlanta and Kansas City. But their Chargers 2024 schedule isn't all that difficult, and I think you can reasonably convince yourself that they can win anywhere from 8 to 10 games, even with this roster not being as talented as other teams in the AFC. My personal team ceiling for the 2024 Chargers is around 9 wins, and I do not think they're going to make the playoffs this year. But what 2024 is about for the Chargers is establishing the identity that they want to have under Jim Harbaugh, which to me is running the football and playing good defense. And if they can do that, follow it up with a good offseason next year. And to be completely honest, I am very much looking forward to seeing what they do next offseason, because what has to be remembered is this was never going to be a 1-year turnaround. If you enter the year with the belief that Jim Harbaugh is going to go from national champion head coach to Super Bowl winning head coach in one offseason with the Chargers, with the amount of setbacks they had this offseason, or with the amount of, resilience, or not resilience, but rather the adversity that they go through as a franchise, then I think you need to tamper your expectations. The 2024 Chargers are clearly a competitive rebuilding team, and I can't wait to see what they do in 2025 and beyond. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as it helps the channel tremendously, and we are closing in on 150,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. So until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.